You might take my freedom, but you can't take my soul. Yeah. And that's just the way I wanted to start tonight off. We're going to get it in tonight, family. Yes, we are. I'm going to let this song finish out. All right, people. Welcome again to another episode of the Black Q&A Live. Yep, it's Saturday night, family, and just like I promised, I'm here and I'm ready to get it in. So, as usual, I want to give out a little bit of information before we get started. If you're listening and you want to call in and participate, the lines right now is wide open. I don't have anything, anything blocked off or anything like that. So give us a call here at 209-689-0007. That's 209-689-0007 and enter in code 504573 to come in and participate. Again, that's 209-689-0007 and the code to participate is 504573. Remember, this show is only as good as you guys are. So definitely call in with your thinking cap on, your A game, and get ready for some give and take, because that's what Black Q&A is all about, question and answering. So to get us started tonight, I wanted to talk about a little bit about what I hope we discuss tonight. And I'm going to start it off with just one word: spirituality. I'll continue with another word: religion, right? There's probably no greater topic in the black community than spirituality and religion. And trust me, each and every last one of us has got something to say on the topic. It doesn't matter how many people you have gathered together. If it's two or more, and you Christians will know what I'm saying, somebody's going to be discussing religion, talking about God, all right? And that's a good thing. You know, for a long time, I thought that religion was probably one of the most hurtful things that we do as a people. You know, my opinion is that it was something that was holding us back, something that was preventing us from reaching our fullest potential. But subsequent events have led me to change my idea about what purpose religion can serve and how it can help us as a people. But before we go there, we need to look at what it's done so far, right? I mean, that's a pretty damn obvious and logical question. What has religion done for black people, especially in the diaspora, but also to our brothers and sisters in the motherland too as well? When I look at what religion has done to us here in the diaspora, it's very easy to get down on the concept of religion. I understand too why we embrace it, right? Like why we hold so tightly to it and why we cleave to it. When we didn't have shit else, not even possession of our own selves, right? We had God, okay? When you're out there in your 20th hour in the fields, hoeing row after row after row, back aching, hungry, belly aching, thirsty, tired. When you didn't have anything else, you could pray, right? You could hum a little spiritual, and try to lift your spirits, right? So I get why religion has the primacy of place, it seems like, amongst our people. But we do not, for the most part today in the diaspora, practice any of the religions that we held prior to coming here. I mean, let's face facts. If you were to take a poll of Americans, Africans in America, right, the vast majority of them would say that they're Christian, right? Now, never mind the fact that, you could sit there and question just how much Christian they are or how much they practice it. But almost without a doubt, each one of them will say, I believe in God. I'm Jesus, Christian, right? Okay. Then you would say Christians are about 85% of us. Another maybe 13% of us are probably Islamic, right? Muslims. They say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, right? They honor the Prophet Muhammad and follow Allah, right? Okay. And then the remaining percentages are non-believers, and there's very few of us. I'm not saying I'm one, but very few of us who are non-believers, right? And people who practice, like, well, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now that we got the numbers out of the way, we know when we talk about religion for black people, right? We know which group we kind of primarily need to address. So whenever I say things, I'm mostly talking to my Christian brother and sister, right? Because they're the ones who are the predominant amount of religious/spiritual people amongst us, all right? When I look at what the practice of Christianity has done for us as a people, I'll be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to talk around the subject. It seems to have done very little. Now, of course, that depends upon what I define as something having been done, doesn't it? Right? I mean, if you're talking about comfort and that feeling that you have that shelter, what a friend we have in Jesus thing, right? Yeah, religion has definitely served that purpose. But other than that, what has religion really done for us? What has our faithfulness to this particular faith accomplished for us? Right? It was easier to ask this question even 80 years ago in our community, right? 80 years ago. 80 years ago, it was definitely possible to say, what has the church done for us? And you could point to actual things, very minuscule things, but you could point to things that the church has done to actually benefit or help the people, right? So fast forward 80 years, and that question is much more difficult to answer at this particular point in time, right? I mean, the churches have gotten bigger, right? The amount of money and resources that the churches control has increased dramatically. As a matter of fact, I saw something that was in 2013 that said that black people have given their churches between 1980 and 2013 around $420 billion. Okay, that's 420 billion with a B dollars. Okay, that's a lot of liquid capital. I mean, it's a lot. And the fact is that with all of that capital in place, what have the churches actually done to benefit the people? Faith is great, right? It sustains us through the times when times are hard, and it gives us a mutual point of reference behind which we can all kind of orbit and have a shared experience, right? So I'm not knocking that. But what has your faith actually accomplished in this world? For you. And I'm not talking about charity where, you have missions going over to Africa to preach Christianity over there as if Christianity has never been in Africa. Hell, if you read the Bible itself, one of the first converts to Christianity was an Ethiopian. So, of course, Christianity has been in Africa since the beginning, right? Only a people ignorant of history would doubt that, right? But I'm not talking about charity or missions programs and things like that. I'm talking about how has religion or spirituality actively done something to benefit your asses today, right now, right? The Black Q&A is about finding those tactics and applying them to an overarching strategy of liberation for all of us black people, without a doubt. It's as simple as that, okay? So if we have a tool in our quiver, right, an arrow in our quiver, right, religion, and it is not actively doing something to liberate us, then we either need to change it in a way that allows it to work for our liberation, or we need to discard it. And since black people have basically made it clear that there's no way in hell, pardon the pun, that they are going to give up religion and spirituality, then we need to find a way to put it in service to us as a people, because otherwise it's nothing more than a millstone around our necks, right? Keeping us drowning. Okay? So tonight, I want everybody to think on this, and I want us to ponder upon what are some of the things that religion hasn't done, and what can religion do to serve the purpose, which should be every black person's goal. If you live in the diaspora underneath white supremacy and white domination, your only goal should be to get the hell out of it by any means possible. So how can we utilize religion as a means by which we can be liberated? And I have a few ideas on the topic. Okay. By the way, just want to remind everybody, the number to call in is 209-689-0007. That's 209-689-0007. All right. And make sure you enter in code 504573. Now, when I first started looking at what religion was capable of doing for us right now, today, the first thing I had to do was I had to understand the religions themselves, right? I mean, look, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, to name the top three, I'm sure that a lot of practitioners of the African spiritual faiths, like, the Ife and stuff like that, have the same idea that what the gods want, or what God wants, needs to happen here, right, on earth. We are to act using the will of God to guide our lives, right? So Christians pray to seek the will of God, right? Muslims pray. Everybody, seeks to do the will of God, right? So, with that said, that's what it's really been all about, is seeking to do the will of God, to bring God's will to earth like it is in heaven, so to speak. Give me just a moment here. I dropped off the conference, so I'm calling back into it. Pardon me.
Welcome to conference calling.
Okay.
The conference has not started. If you are the hub.
All right.
You will now.
And it's back. Okay. Sorry about that, family. Go ahead and call in if you were attempting to call in. Okay. Make sure you mute your microphones, mute your speakers, mute yourself, so that we don't get a bunch of feedback and mess up the quality of the show, because I'm recording this and it will be up on Facebook for archives, so everybody can listen to it again if you missed it. All right. So back to what I was saying. The big thing is to seek to enact the will of God on earth, like God's will is enacted everywhere else. All right. So with that in mind, I'd like to posit an idea, right? And I recognize that based off of most of all of your theologies, right, you're going to consider this blasphemous. You're going to consider this, completely heretical. But I believe that it is really the only way we can ensure that religion/spirituality actually works in service of our need for liberation, for freedom from this white-dominated, white supremacist society. We need to adopt the idea of acting as God. And I will definitely, explain that in more detail. What I mean is that, like the Bible says in 1 John, right? If we say we love our brother, or love God, if we say we love God, but we hate our brother, then we are liars, because no one has ever seen God, but we see our brothers daily. What that kind of tells me is that when we, as a people, start to focus on acting as God, we basically become the only God that people are ever going to experience or see. Now, that's not to say that your prayers mean nothing, your charity means nothing. But what this means is that if you are going to discuss God, that's fine. If you're going to pray to God, that's fine too. But you also need to be doing God, because that is the only God that any of us will ever see. You get me? Right? When I say do God, I mean just that. A lot of us spend a lot of time questioning, and I know I've done the same thing, right? So I'm speaking from the heart. I'm speaking from something that I know. A lot of us have spent a lot of time trying to divine the will of God, right? We have various means, right? Some of us use a divinatory method, like casting the bones or reading the coconut shells, right? That's perfectly okay, right? Some of us will randomly open a book of the Bible or the Quran to a verse or an ayah, right? And we will read that and try to gauge its meaning to the situation that we find ourselves seeking guidance in. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say something pretty damned radical. The fact is, I believe that with you being here, whatever it is that you find yourself doing is the will of God. Now, how the hell can I be so presumptuous to say such a thing? I'm glad you asked, people, because the simple fact is that God, being omnipotent, right, all powerful, and omniscient, all knowing, right, knows what it is that you're going to do. And not only knows what it is that you're going to do, but has the capability to stop you from doing it. So, if you do anything in this life, and God knows that you're going to do it, and does not stop you from doing it, then it is the will of God. So why all of this begging and pleading to try to understand the will of God? Simply just start acting, and you will be acting in the will of God, because the very fact that you are able to do it means that it is the will of God. You don't have to guess. If you can reach out and grab something with your hand, it was the will of God that you grab that something with your hand. Simple as that, right? If you raise up a community of certain individuals to accomplish certain acts, it was God's will that you do so. How do you know? Because you were able to do it. What I believe, people, and what I think will be beneficial to serve us as part of our liberation struggle here in the wilds of North America and other areas of the diaspora, is that we start doing God. We start acting in God's stead, acting as God, taking up the power of creation, putting on the mantle of God, and being the only God to our brothers and sisters that we will ever see. That requires, though, a shift in how we look at our religions. So far, we look at religion, and I think this is it was good once upon a time, but I don't think it helps us now. A lot of us look at religion as something that we serve, right? We look at God as somebody we serve, as if an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, an omnipresent being needs anything from you, right? You want to talk about a lack of humility, right? You think that the creator, maintainer, and sustainer of everything you can see and cannot see actually requires something of you? The idea itself is nonsensical, people. If God is God, then God, by his very or her or its very nature, does not require a damn thing from you. Otherwise, it would be lesser than. It would be dependent. It would not be omniscient. It would not be omnibenevolent. It would not be omnipresent. It would not be, omnipotent, right? So if we ascribe these attributes or these traits to God, then we need to start acting like we actually believe that God possesses those attributes, right? But this has the beneficial side effect of not only expanding our idea of the consciousness of this overwhelming power that we try to call God, but it also elevates us as well, right? Because when we start to do God rather than talk about God, or rather than just talking about God, when we don't act as supplicants to God, but act as, in a sense, children of or partners with, which will offend the Muslims. I get it, right? But the fact is that all of this submission to God has brought us really nothing, right? We've got a church on every corner, or a masjid on every corner, or whatever. We've got all of these places and houses of worship. Some are nicer than others. Some are crappier than others, right? But beyond that little building, we don't really see any evidence of anything that the religion has done actually for the community. Did you guys know that a church can actually own a business? Yes, it's true. A church can own a business, and it can own that business for the benefit of its members, right? So what's stopping all of you from banding together as an organization, all becoming members of a particular religious faith or religious organization, and then utilizing that religious organization to take care of you and your families? There's nothing. It's absolutely legal. There's no law that says you can't do it. There's nothing stopping you, people. Right? Did you know that that churches can actually own big plots of land? And not only that, but churches in this country, because of the separation of church and state, churches actually enjoy tax exemptions for owning things. So instead of us individually buying land, right, and having to pay taxes on the shit, why not get together collectively as a religious or spiritual community, acquire lands to put homes on that are rent free for our peoples, right, that we don't have to pay a dime for? They belong to all of us as a collective group, as a spiritual or religious group. And not only that, but never have to pay a dime to Uncle Sam's punk ass in taxes. Hello? Right? On earth as it is in heaven. You feeling me? Right? On earth as it is in heaven is not a damn slogan. It's not a platitude, something that sounds nice, but that's going to happen way in the future when Jesus come back. Bullshit. It can happen today. It should be happening today. And the very fact that it is not happening today says a lot about just how beneficial our particular understanding of faith, of religion, of spirituality has been for us as a people. So I don't want to keep talking too much. Right now, the lines are wide open. I've got nobody that's called in, which is perfectly fine by me. I made the commitment to be here at 7, so I'm here at 7. I'm broadcasting, and I'll continue to speak. And if I'm just talking to myself, that's perfectly fine with me. But if you're out there and you have something you want to say on the topic, this is your show. I provide the forum, but you provide the energy. All right. So please give us a call in here at 209-6. Sorry, let me get that number here again for us. That's 209-689-0007 and enter in code 504573 to participate. All right. So I'll continue on. And so with what I've said, I think that in 2016 and moving forward, right, we need to stop asking for permission to be spiritual, religious people. We need to stop worrying about, is God going to approve? Like I said, the capabilities that we have if we embrace this theology for our liberation is manifold. Because we then start to understand that religion, as we have it, is a gift for us, right? If you look at religion in the sense that it is a technology, right? And what is the definition of a technology, people? A technology is something that humans develop to compensate for a perceived lack, right? We utilize technology to make up the areas in which we lack as human beings, right? We don't have claws or super sharp teeth, right? So we develop knives, okay, or scissors, right? We can't run really fast, at least faster than some other animals. So what do? When we develop, vehicles, or we domesticate animals that can run really fast and we ride them, right? We utilize technology to help us compensate for areas in which we are lacking. So what does religion as a technology do? Religion helps us to compensate for the tendency to act as if we are only here by ourselves. Remember, we can't read each other's thoughts, people. I mean, we can be close to somebody as close can be. I love my wife, and I'm close to her, as my own breath. But there's always going to be that fundamental disconnect because I cannot be in her head, and nor can she be in mine. And human beings, being the creatures that we are, we develop technologies like religion to unite us around a common point that we can see externally that lets us know that we share the same thoughts with other human beings, right? So this way, we don't have to guess. We don't have to wonder what their thought process is. If they share worship with us, and they share praise with us, and they share food with us, and they participate in the same rituals as us, that makes it clear that at least in some way, shape, or fashion, they are thinking similarly to us, right? So if we think about religion as a technology, as a way of compensating for that perceived fundamental disconnect that we have with other human beings. Whether you believe that's there or not, I think there's enough evidence to support the fact that we're not going around reading each other's thoughts and are in each other's heads. Okay? You can have a spiritual experience where you feel like you're one with everybody, but that still doesn't tell you what that person's thinking about eating tonight for dinner. Sorry. Okay? So we have this tool in place, and it's a powerful tool. And just like every other tool that humankind or that humanity has developed, the tool is only as beneficial as the people who use it, right? It's like a sword, okay? A sword is only as beneficial as the person who wields it. A sword can be used in service and the protection of life, right? But a sword can also be used to destroy and kill life. And the sword itself isn't where the goodness or badness comes from. It's in its use that makes it good or bad. Okay? So we use technology to help us to do things better that we can't normally do better ourselves. Knowing that, as a religion, technology helps us to better our communities and ourselves by creating a tie that binds, right? In English, the term religion comes from the word religare in Latin, which means to bind together, to reconnect together, right? And that's exactly what religion does. We come together, either on Fridays to, Salat al-Juma, right, for the Muslims, or we come together on Saturdays for the Jews, or the Seventh-day Adventists who are Christians, and we come together on Sundays for everybody else, right? And we gather together as a people, and we worship in the manner in which we choose. We sing, and we pray, and we praise, and we give charity, and we use that as a time to organize around our common thoughts about our faith, right? So, religion is life. It's a part of our life, and it's a big part of one. So why not allow it to bleed over into other areas of our life, right? Like if it's good to unite on, say, Sundays for praise and worship in church, right? And on, Wednesday night for Bible study, well, wouldn't it be better to unite on Tuesday night to have a meal together? Wouldn't it be better to unite on Monday night to help the kids with schoolwork or homework, right? Or how about unite together on Thursday nights to go over accounting for households and to help them set up budgets and set up debt repayment programs and things like that. I mean, if getting together with our family, which our spiritual and religious, brothers and sisters are, then getting together with them, more than just a couple of times a week, getting with them and staying with them has to be the best of living, right? It has to be the best way to live, right? The Muslims actually speak on this directly. You know what I mean? The Ummah, the community of believers, right? No matter where you go, if you are Muslim, right? If you're a believer, a person who makes up a part of the body of the Ummah, you are welcome everywhere there are other Muslims, right? And this is at any time, at any place, right? Christians, they actually had the same beliefs in the beginning. When you look in Acts chapters 2 and chapter 4, when you read about the early church, you read that the early church shared everything in common, and no person looked at his possessions as his own. And they not only shared everything that they had in common, but they were able to give in charity from that common pool that they put together and united for. So there's no particular reason why, if we are the most faithful, the most spiritual, the most religious people, and that's consistent no matter when they count the numbers, there's no particular reason why us being that way also means that we're the most destitute, we're the most poor, right? We're the most lacking. No. As a matter of fact, as a person of spirit, it should be an indictment to you that you have the capability, right? My Christian brothers and sisters, I'm speaking to you directly, right? Wasn't it Yeshua who said that greater things than what I have done, you will do, right? And this guy was able to feed 5,000 people with, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, if the stories are to be believed, right? And you mean to tell me that y'all can't get together to feed an entire community of starving people, right? I'm just saying, right? If you think about this, your religion actually expressly tells you to embody God. Yeshua is also reported to have said that what man, when he has a lamp, hides it under a basket? You let your light shine so that people see the light and give glory to God, right? Because remember, we don't see God, but we can see your black ass, right? We can see you. If you are acting as God and doing the things of God, then you don't need to tell us of God, because God is present. You become Emmanuel, right? God with us, imminently right now with us. We don't need to ask you about God. We will see God through your actions. But what do we have? We have a community where there's a church everywhere, and everybody's still broke. Everybody's still paying rent to people who don't give less than a shit about them, right? And then we pray and we pray. I mean, you got people out here that are praying for groceries. Are you kidding me? Why is it that we have these organizations, these churches in place, and people are praying for groceries when food should be streaming from the doors of the churches, right? The whole community should be a church. The whole community should be a church. And that means that everybody in the community is a member, and everybody in the community is taken care of, and everybody in the community has their damn basic needs met. How is it that you're going to contribute into a collection plate on Sunday for a missions trip to Africa or Fiji or whatever the case may be, when you got mission work you could be doing right here in your own damn community? And I'm not talking about preaching to people about God. Look, here's something that you may not have been aware of, but you, after listening to this, you won't be able to say you didn't know. A hungry, cold, sick, broken individual physically cannot hear shit from you about God. I know it sounds crazy, but you could stand there and preach to this person until you're blue in the face, and it won't make a bit of damn difference. Do you know why? Because they are not focused on the higher things. They cannot focus on the higher things. They cannot. Right? The only way that they're going to be able to get to that place where they can hear you is after their bellies are full and they're warm and they have some clothes on and they're in a safe place and they got a place to go and lay their head down at night that's, where no one's going to hurt them or steal their things, right? Until their physical needs are met, you preaching at them is not going to make a bit of difference. But here's a side benefit to adopting the new theology that it's not new, to be honest, but readopting the theology, that radical loving theology that I'm talking about. Here's a side benefit. If you start taking care of the physical needs of the people, you won't even need to preach to them about God. They will come and ask you, why are you doing this for me? I was homeless. Y'all came up to me. I've got a job now, or I've got a place to work. I've got a home. I eat every night. You haven't asked me for a penny. Why do you do this? Well, isn't that a perfect time to let them know about the God that you act on behalf of, that you move through this world doing the actions of? You're damn right it is. So the fact is that if you start doing more God rather than discussing more about God or preaching more about God or doing all of that, I can guarantee you will get more God across to more people in an easier fashion than you ever have before, because people will actually be in a physical position to hear where you're coming from, right? And not only that, but the power of God, of your God, will be evident. People can see it, right? I'm from Missouri originally. The motto of Missouri is show me state. And it's true as hell. If you're from Missouri, people will come and tell you these tall tales, and the first thing out of most Missourians' mouths is, show me, right? They don't believe nothing without proof. Well, okay, I'm overreaching when I say that, but let's just say that a healthy skepticism is the birthright of pretty much every Missourian, okay? But that's also true for us as black people, right? I mean, for the most part, except if it's some old stuff that's been breathed into our ear ever since we was babies, we don't just buy into everything. We've been around the way enough to know that when someone comes and tells you something, right, you're not going to automatically believe the bullshit. I'm just keeping it real, right? You're going to be like, wait a minute, that sounds a little strange, it's a little off. I'm going to need some evidence. I'm going to need something from you to support that, right? And that's cool. That's the way it should be, right? So if we have that attitude about that, then when someone comes and talks to us about probably one of the most important and powerful things that we could experience as human beings, which is the power of the numinous, right? The power of the transcendent, right? The power of God, if you will. It's a hell of a lot easier to buy into something like that when you can see the evidence of the power of that God in the people who hold the idea or the belief, right? So if you got a community of believers and the leaders are doing well, but the people are not, then you really have to seriously ask yourself, are they following a God I can get behind? I'm just saying. This is a question that I think should be asked by you believers, right? When you go to church and the pastor has the plate out asking for another contribution to the building fund, why doesn't one of you stand up and ask them, building what? Another church building? When are we going to build some houses for us, right? When are we going to build a business for our people to come and work in, right? So we can believe as we like. We can practice as we like, right? You got, Muslim brothers and sisters that's, being harassed on jobs and fired for, making a salat, right? So why aren't you building your own businesses to where you can hire your own people and you can shut your business down to make salat? right? You don't have to ask the boss man's permission. You can just simply close down, saying, sorry, we're closed for business right now due to it's time for prayer. And that's a beautiful damn thing to have the freedom to be able to embrace your spirituality, but also help your butt here temporally, right now, in today, not waiting for the hereafter or paradise or Jannah, right? But here in the now, we can have heaven on earth, and our churches, our mosques, our masjids, right? Our synagogues, or whatever, whether you Hebrew Israelite, Nation of Islam, whether you Seventh Day Adventist, whether you AME, whether you Sunni or Shia, it doesn't matter, right? I refuse as a human being to accept the idea that something like religion is meant to chain us in some way, shape, or fashion, right? I can't conceive of a God concept in me that would create me to be how and who I am, and then write a whole text or a series of books or give a series of revelations telling me to be something other than what I am. That doesn't make sense to me. So we have these holy books telling us very important things: how to live with each other, right? How to do things for each other, how to deal with conflict, how to act justly and in good measure, across the board with our brothers and sisters, right? So, we have that in place, okay? And, I refuse to believe that we need to see that as a chain, right? As something to submit to. We are that. When you are doing God rather than talking about God, you are loving. When you do God rather than just talking about and preaching God, the charity flows out of you like running water. It just literally goes away from you. Your very presence is giving to people, right? You can't help it. It just oozes off of you. Everywhere you go, you're giving to people at that point, right? Because you cannot not do it. Just like God cannot not sustain the universe, right? God is going to sustain the whole damn thing. Whether you do anything or not, the sun rises and sets, the winds blow, the rain falls, right? And you have to do nothing for it. And just like that, when you're doing God, people don't have to do anything to get anything from you because you already have it to give. Because the people that you've aligned yourself with, the community of believers, are also doing God too, and they've made it possible for you to do God. It has a synergistic effect, right? It builds on itself. So the more people you have doing God, the more people can do God, right? Sorry, people, I'm just going to let a few people know about the show. I thought that I put out enough notice to say 7 p.m. Pacific time, but that's probably why I don't have a lot of people on right now. As a matter of fact, I don't have nobody on, but that's okay. Let me just send a quick text. All right. By the way, if you're out there listening, I'm glad you're listening. This is here for you. Maybe you don't feel like that you have something that you can say, but trust me when I tell you, before I started doing this show, I called in to a couple of shows, right? And I was nervous as hell. I didn't think anybody would want to hear what I have to say and want to participate. But the fact is that I've been fortunate, even though you can't really tell it right now because no one's here. But people have called in. People do listen to what I have to say. And I feel more confident being able to share that with people. So if you're listening and you want to participate, please do. Even if it's no more than a sentence. It could be that one sentence, that one key that unlocks the door. Okay? So never be bashful. You're in the presence of family. We love you. We respect you. Your attitude, your mentality, your mind state and where you are is just as valuable as anyone else's. And never, ever be afraid to let that shine, to let that come out. All right? So, I'm going to go ahead and continue on the topic for a little bit longer here. But at around 8 or so of my time, that would be 11 o'clock for you East Siders, if you're listening. If I haven't gotten anybody to call in, I'll go ahead and call it a night. I got a family. My son and my wife are probably listening to the show right now and laughing their butts off because ain't nobody called in. But don't worry about it, everybody. It's going to grow. Anyway, I want to throw out a couple of actual practical ideas. The Black Q&A isn't just about jaw jacking. I believe in us making commitments to each other to do things. And then when we start doing things to actually honor those commitments, right? That is what's going to liberate us. I can tell you for a certainty, no revolution has ever been completed with us sitting around talking to each other. That's a start, right? This forum should be the start of the revolution in your life, right? You come here so that you can get some knowledge, build with your brothers and sisters, but then you're supposed to take that out into the world and do something with it. So I'm committing publicly to never doing a show where I don't offer at least one practical thing that we should be doing or can be doing right now that will work toward our liberation. Okay? So here's the one practical thing for the evening. Spiritually or religiously, right? You have your belief itself is stronger in groups, right? And your ability to act as a believer is stronger in groups. People, you need to start grouping together. And I mean not just on Sundays, Fridays, Saturdays, not just for choir rehearsal or Bible study or, during Ramadan, or on Eid al-Fitr, right? No, I'm talking about you need to be united every single day. Every day, all day. You need to organize together as religious communities. And I'll explain why this is a practical. Because there are benefits that adhere to groups of religious people that don't necessarily adhere to you just as a simple believer. Right? To give you a bit of a model, right? The model should be a monastery, right? And I'm not talking about, a place where you guys just completely do nothing but pray all day, sing hymns, and, devote yourselves to the utter worship of God. No. That medieval old school shit is for the birds. And I think that was a bunch of white folks anyway, although they did have some pretty cool monasteries in Africa. But that said, think about the concept of a monastery, right? The concept of a monastery wasn't that you had the preacher man who was, the boss of the church, and then everybody kind of underneath the preacher man is just, regular laity or members. No. In a monastery, even the abbot or the leader of a monastery is simply the first among equals. Okay? And because they usually have made vows of poverty, vows of chastity, which I know I'm not asking any of you to do this. I'm just asking you to consider the model, right? But since they have made these vows as a part of their religious experience, the community takes care of the members, right? The monks all eat communally. They all live communally. They all dress communally. Right? They do everything as one entity because they can't do it by themselves. They've made sure through their religious vows, right? And since there is no, Congress can make no law regarding the establishment of religion, right? That's in the Constitution. Because of that law, a person can practice their faith however they choose. And so by organizing as a religious community, this means that not only does the church get benefits such as tax exemptions, both on the local, state, or I should say all on the local, state, and federal level, right? But the ability to acquire different resources and things like that, all of those acquisitions that a church or a monastery was to gain is to gain for the benefit of the members of the individual monastics, right? So if you take and translate that over into our church structures, right? I can tell you right now, you need to get rid of the preacher man, okay? Sure, we love to have a brother that could get up there and expound from the word and he talk real good, right? You know, you need to get rid of the imam, you know, not saying that we can't have a brother or sister, you sexist motherfuckers, right? A brother or sister who's capable of, you know, leading us to the areas of spirit. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that each of you need to become you need to stop being laity, stop being layabouts, and actually become active, ordained participants in your particular religious experience. Now, does this mean you have to go around marrying folk and, you know, counseling with folk? No. But it may mean that you can go and pray with some people at a hospital. You know, for those of you who believe in the power of laying hands on them, right? You can do that just as well as someone who's ordained as you can by just being a lay person, right? And by becoming ordained, you actually provide yourself with some benefits that you don't have as a member of the laity, all right? I'm saying this because I have actually put together a group, right? A church, okay? I'm going to introduce tonight, before I get off of here, the Foundation Fellowship Church. And yes, it is a legally, in every way, church. I can provide paperwork, documentation, the whole 9 yards. So I have the Foundation Fellowship Church. But I am not asking you to join my church. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm not asking for anybody to do really much of anything. What I am asking for, though, is 100. Now, I realize that I probably don't even have 100 people listening to the show right now, but I am on a hunt for 100 people. I will train this 100 people. I will personally teach them, and I will provide the structure for them to be able to then go out into the community and start to organize religious and spiritual communities, actual communities, where we can then start to utilize the benefits, the real temporal, not just in the heavens, but where your ass is right here, the real temporal benefits of being a part of a religious community. I'm not asking for you to not be spiritual, to not be religious. I'm actually asking you to be more so, to embrace in its fullness and its richness what your religion and spirituality can do. Are you following me, people? I need 100 people. And I am telling you in advance that while I am not going to ask for donations, these 100 people will be founding members and they will need to help fund this thing. So you will need to come up with some bread. And that's why I'm only asking for 100, right? I'll explain what the costs are for, and I'll explain why I'm demanding the cost, but only to the 100. So the first 100 people that I get that are willing to become founding members of the Foundation Fellowship Church, I will set up everything for them to be able to start organizing religious and spiritual communities throughout our nation, to start taking and actually elevating our people out of poverty, elevating our people out of want, creating jobs, creating homes, creating businesses, and bringing heaven to earth right here today for our people. So if you are interested in being one of the 100, I've got contact information all over the website there at blackqna.net. You can reach out to me on Facebook at Mark Black on Facebook. As a matter of fact, let me make sure I've got the whole thing right here. Yep, on Facebook, you can find me as Mark Black 1831. All right, I just pulled up my Facebook page. You, of course, can visit my website or my YouTube page at Black Q&A, right, at YouTube. I'm on Twitter at the Black Q&A. That's Black _Q _ the word and _ A. Okay, so you have a myriad of ways that you can reach me if you're interested in doing this thing. And again, this is not a gift. It is not a gimme. We need to start actually investing in our communities. And I am going to ask that the 100 put up an initial investment. It's not going to be where I'm getting rich off of you. I don't want to be rich off my people. I want my people to be rich. But I also have a lot that I'm going to share with you, a lot of work that I'm going to do for the 100, and a lot of effort that I'm going to extend out for that 100. And I deserve to be paid for it. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm, Pastor Pork Chop or, the latest prosperity pimp. I'm not going to lie to you. If you come and join this, at least initially, the first 100, there's an investment you're going to have to make in it. All right? And that's as simple as that. Okay? So, people, in light of the fact that I have not really had a show for you, and it's all been basically Mark Black, that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to start wrapping it up. I just want to say that I will revisit this topic. So if people have, for whatever reason, weren't aware that 7 was the time to participate, I'm okay with that, right? We will come back to this topic because, in my opinion, of all the things that we're currently doing that could be modified to serve our liberation, to serve our struggle for liberation, our spirituality and our religion is actually one of the most potent and most underutilized tools. And I know you're going to say, well, what do you do for the community? Or I feed the hungry all the time. I'm not talking about your goddamn charity. I'm not. Matter of fact, charity is so far below of what I'm talking about right now that if that is all you have to stand on, you actually are proving my point. If your whole thing is that you've been able to give charity and not actually lift people up to the point where they don't need your charity, you, what's the phrase I want to use? You fucked up. Yeah, I'm telling you. Because it can be so much more than what you have already done, family. This can be so much more. And the best part about it is that it is one of the areas where white supremacy and white domination is actually weakest. Because in order to harm you in this area, other than to try to brainwash us again with a religion that serves us no purpose, right, which they did a damn good job of during slavery and so on. But the only way they could attack us is to attack their own churches too as well. And that would tear this damned country apart. Because if you think that we're suspicious or hateful of the government, you should go into some of these white churches on Sunday. They actively preach from the pulpit that the government is the Antichrist. That Obama's the devil. We know why he preaches that. Why they preach that, because he's black. But they were saying that the devil's, the Pope is the devil, and George Bush is the devil, and so on and so forth. Right? I mean, when you talk about anti-government, some of these white churches have got us beat by a country mile. All right, and you try to fuck with them, and it will be revolution in the streets the next day. So why aren't we doing more of what we already doing, right? If all you're giving is charity and having a few conferences on relationships and how to be a good woman to a good man, I mean, really, people, it can be so much more than that. It should be so much more than that. And I can guarantee those who participate in the Foundation Fellowship Church that it will be more than that. Because we will learn and we will teach how to build the structures in our community that will make it more than that. So, family, again, thank you guys for listening. The archive is going to be up here on YouTube in a little while. We will revisit this topic again. It's a shame that I didn't really get a chance to chop it up with some of the family, but that's okay. It's Saturday night. I'm actually shocked that anybody even responded when I said I was going to do it Saturday night. But in my last show, which you can find up on YouTube right now, I made a public promise that I would do a show tonight. So I did it. I kept my word as always, right? We need to start being having integrity and being people of our word. We've gotten so used to distrusting each other that we literally don't believe each other about anything, and it's a damn shame. So you can trust and believe that when Mark Black says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. Family, I wish you love. I wish you peace. I wish you prosperity and all the good things that this life has to offer. Be on the lookout in my various social medias for the next episode of Black Q&A Live. I haven't actually set a specific day yet because right now I'm just trying to get Black Q&A Live out there, right? I'm just trying to get people to know about it. Once I can start actually having consistent participants and things like that, right, to make the show lively, I'll set a specific day starting off once per week. But as I'm able to make some of the moves that I'm making in my own personal life and things like that, which free up a lot more time for me, I look forward to being able to do this for you, 4-8 hours a day, however long y'all want it. How long do you want the knowledge to be coming to you people? How long you want to have the opportunity to get together on some real, actual, factual practicals, right? None of this high-flung, way out in the ether bullshit that we used to hearing, right? But some real stuff that we can use in our lives every day. How often do you want that? How often do you want the opportunity to have that? So, family, I love you. Thank you for your time. Get at me. Again, you can go on blackqa.net. There's links to all my social media websites there. I also post on the blackqa.net every day something new. I don't repeat myself usually, right? At least I try not to. And again, this is all for you guys. This isn't my forum. This is your forum. And it will be what we want to make it to be. So peace and blessings to all of you. And everybody have a fantastic night. I'm out.